welcome back to Lockbox Lunatics. I'm Chad Kamp here in Chandler, Arizona, with my trusty cohort, actually, the other side, Steve Lambert out of Kennewick, Washington. How's it going, Steve?
Good, man. How about you, Chad?
Doing good, man. I'm just happy to have all my digits after the 4th of July this last weekend, right?
That's right. Yes.
And today is National 7-Eleven Day. Did you know that?
I did not know that. Dude, that is
Was
awesome.
July 11th, 7-Eleven,
I li- I
right?
guess that makes sense. And you know what? 7-Eleven has the best Slurpees. The best.
Right. What's your favorite flavor?
I'm old school that way, but one of my favorite flavors was cherry Coke. Like I just I
Oh,
like
yeah.
I just anytime, I'm kind of weird that way. Anytime in the summertime there's a cherry flavored soda, whether it be Coke, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, whatever it is, I'm a sucker for it. I just am. I don't
Yeah.
know why, but I
You know,
am.
I don't know. I don't know whether they just came out with that when I was in high school, but I remember actually, I won't say the day, but I remember the instance where a buddy of mine's like, "Hey man, they got this cherry Coke. You really got to try it," right? Like it was just some next world, you know.
Like thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
I like it, dude. I think
oh yeah, I love it. Yeah,
it just reminds me of summer. I don't know why. It reminds me of summer.
yeah, it does.
I
So,
used to like what I really like too. They used to have like a neon green, like kind of like a limeade kind of one or whatever. Like
oh, okay.
way back
Yes.
in the way back machine because I just got out of high school 3 weeks ago. Just kidding.
And then you had those kids that would hit every flavor.
Oh yeah, dude. Just
Yeah, that was good. I,
like
I I wasn't courageous enough to try that.
it didn't work out right if you didn't have like the right amounts. You know what I mean? So I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah. So I guess there was a science to it, and I was never very good in science. As a matter of fact, I had to take summer school my between my junior and senior year specifically for science.
I liked science. Science was the one thing I could figure out pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
I
what
was,
we were kind of talking about the other day. We were talking about a very hot topic right now in real estate.
right. Yeah.
And this has to do with, in my opinion, my humble opinion, the ability to properly represent our clients in the real estate market when we are helping our clients sell a property. And I don't know if people have heard about this yet or what people are thinking about it, but it has to do with listings being held off of the MLS and kind of corralled, if you will, into a brokerage's own ecosystem and website.
Right.
How do you feel about that? I
The,
mean, I know you know what I'm talking about.
the
Like,
first thing that came to my mind actually just now, which this shows you how weird my mind works, is do you remember in well, of course I've got grandkids, so we're watching cartoonish stuff all the time, right?
oh
But
yeah, yeah.
Finding Nemo, when you've got the seagulls that are just flying around, mine, 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 right? So realistically, that's what some of these brokerages are doing is that's my listing. No one else is like getting allowed to have access to it. I'm not going to go ahead and market it across all the different platforms. We're going to
Right.
keep it to ourselves, but you better share with me what you've got, but I'm not going to share with you what I've got.
Right. It is very one-sided. And that's the
It
thing,
is.
and I'm looking, I did some, I'm checking out, I did a little Googling here. So MLS offer the maximum exposure to a vast pool of potential buyers. Well, we know that,
Right.
and it is interesting to me because like you said, it's like mine, mine, mine. Because they should be marketing your property to as many people as possible. Like my goal, I'm a marketing major. It goes against every bone in my body to sit there and say, "Oh, well, I'm going to get your listing. Chad, I'm going to sell your house, but I'm going to keep it on my website and I'm going to force consumers and potential buyers to go to my site and my site only and work with me and my agents because chances are you're not going to find it through your agent unless they're perusing my site, right? And it seems one a little bit like it's just very anti a lot of things to me
It
on the
is.
marketing side of it because I'm forcing you into my ecosystem, forcing you to use my person. It's almost like coercion, and I hate to use that word. I don't use that very loosely, but it feels not right to me. It doesn't feel good to me because the free marketplace operates best when as many eyeballs as possible can get on something that's for sale. auto dealerships don't sit there and just limit their advertising to their dealership. Shoot, they throw commercials across national
Right.
syndications all over the web and everything else. Why? To get as many eyeballs on it as they can, to sell as many cars as they can at the best price that they can do it for. I mean, it's marketing 101. It's
Right.
really weird to me. And you brought up a really good point when we were talking about this the other day. So, Chad and I were kind of chatting about this the other day, and you brought up a phenomenal point that it goes against something that we are held to, our standards as brokers. And do you
Right.
want to jump into
Right.
that a little bit more?
Yeah, so don't ask me to spell this, but it's fiduciary duty, right? Actually, I can spell it, but the the big thing with fiduciary duty is realistically when you get down to brass tacks, you're as an agent, you're supposed to put your client's needs and interests ahead of your own.
Yes.
Period. It's as simple as that. Okay. Now it's easier said than done most times, right? But
Mhm.
realistically, from a brokerage perspective, whenever you're limiting exposure to your clients' listings to the
Yeah.
full marketplace, you're trying to monopolize it at that point in time because you're trying to say, hey, everyone else, don't go talk to any other agent. You have to come use me. And that's a form of monopoly, in my opinion. But realistically, you're not doing your sellers any justice by getting that mass exposure and by having the reason the MLS was created was for a central location for agents to come to and locate listings. Back 100 years ago, 80 years ago, you would have guys standing on a street corner with a list of homes, right, saying,
Yeah.
hey, if you're looking for a house, this is where it is. So instead of everyone having to go to the street corner, now with the technology that we've got, the MLS was the natural selection in doing so. Now, the
Yeah.
NAR has some ownership in some of the MLSs, and do I agree with everything the NAR does? No, they've lost their first love as far as I'm concerned. Um, they chase they starting to chase some things down that aren't positively impacting the real estate world, right? In
Yeah.
my opinion, that's just my opinion, folks.
Oh, 100%. I got you.
Yeah, and we won't dive into those, but but realistically, the great thing about that was there is a central location to pull
Yes.
data and to be able to expose someone's home to the masses. You
Well,
expose
and I love that you talk about that. And I want to also point out that not all the MLSs are owned by the NAR. There's privately owned
right,
MLSs as well that all cooperate together. And the key part about this, and that this is where I feel like the MLSs have been getting kind of some really bad press and publicity. I don't think is fully accurate lately, which is the idea of that they control the real estate market. They're not controlling the real estate market. What they are doing is to those who are licensed realtors and brokers in all their respective states that have taken the proper classes and licensing and have passed all their tests and keep themselves active and they're up to date with all the professional things that we need to operate as realtors and or brokers, that we have access to these to be able to see those homes. So in my opinion, and here's the other thing. So in my opinion, those are actively available to people that should have access to them in terms of presenting them and selling them to their clients and representing their clients. So I'm okay with that. That's fine. Um, and if you think about it, they're all syndicated to what? The big search portals out there.
right.
So they've all been put in one spot and then they're shot out across all these portals all over the internet. So talk about being available, like you said, to the consumer on multiple fronts. You can find it online, you can find it through your agent, you can find it by driving by physically, you can find it by your neighbor seeing a sign, whatever it is. There's multiple avenues for people to see everything that's available to them.
Right.
And that is where people are saying the MLS controls what's available or controls the marketing. I don't think so. And what it has done
Not
is
even close.
it's kind of brought them all together and then pushes them all out across everywhere. So it creates more access than we've ever had. I think you and I could say in the last few years, we've seen access to listings just go through the roof to
Oh yeah.
consumers. And it's been phenomenal. Clients will call you and they're like, hey, this just hit because maybe I'm working with multiple clients and I get an alert, but I'm in a meeting and my client's texting me, hey, this just hit, and I was like, oh, hot dog, that's a great listing. Let's go check.
And what's funny is the syndication, how these are syndicated into the websites that they're syndicated to. You'll get a phone call and you'll say, "Where did you see that?" And they'll come up with some obscure website you've never even heard of before,
Yeah. So
right?
that just goes to prove that point, right? That they are available to so many places. And so I think it's doing a massive disservice to clients
Mhm.
when you sit there and say, hey, Chad, I'm going to list your house, but I'm going to keep it in my box and I'm going to keep it there for a while and see if I can get you top dollar. Now, do I see a benefit to sometimes keeping a house off the market? Hey, you know what? Yeah, if I've got a $15 million listing and I've got an A-list celebrity and I don't want everybody in my,
Right.
I mean, but even then, why not? I mean,
Yeah.
you just never know who's going to come through. And I think there's a misperception too among sellers saying, oh, well, I don't want it to be seen because I don't want everybody coming through my house. Well, if your listing agent is worth their salt, they're going to properly vet anybody coming through and they're going to have a system in place to ensure that it's the right person and not just letting random people walk through your house. I mean,
Right.
that's just real estate 101 to me right there. But this whole thing's very interesting and it's creating some dividing lines. There's a couple brokerages out there, I'm not going to name who, that have been very vocal about wanting to keep their listings private. And now another larger brokerage and a couple smaller mid-sized brokerages come out and said, no, 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 we agree that we want to keep everything on the MLS so that it's exposed to as many people as possible
Right.
because that's what we're doing for our clients. Like you said, fiduciary responsibility, where these other brokerages are saying, nope, nope, we want to hold them off for a while. So they kind of want the best of both worlds. But it's interesting because the lawsuit that's going on right now with his Compass suing Zillow, it, like I said, I mentioned this before, the irony in that one just cracks me up because I'm like, you want to control all these listings, but you also want to have access when you decide it's okay for you to shoot them out to the rest of the universe. Now I want to be a part of this. It's very interesting. It's fascinating to me.
Well, what's going to be interesting is actually, let's just say that goes through and they continue along that path, right?
Yeah.
What's the outcome going to happen is if come from as far as opening yourself up to additional liability from limited
Yes.
representation perspective, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So
That's huge.
there's dual agency in the world of real estate. And so if you're restricting someone to allow, restricting access and you're effectively forcing someone to use one of your agents, because that's ultimately what the end goal is, what they're hoping to occur, they're going to put themselves in a limited dual agency situation. And the lawsuits that are going to come from that, what
Mm.
kind of ramifications that they're going to be, facing at that point in time.
Well, I know they have disclosures coming out
Mhm.
all the
Well,
I know they have a ton of disclosures. I get that, but you and I both know disclosures still don't prevent lawsuits from happening in this industry. We've seen multiple lawsuits happen over the past, 20, 30 years where disclosures were put out there. And these lawsuits have helped, shape and form a lot of how real estate works and operates and the stack of paperwork always keeps growing, right? We kind of joke every time there's new paperwork, it's because somebody sued somebody somewhere and won or something happened. So we got a new paper now, a new disclosure. And it's interesting to me because I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's going to put people in positions of feeling. I mean, I can see it now. I can hear it now. I can hear a consumer saying, "Well, I felt like I had no choice but to
yeah,
use their agency to purchase this home if I wanted it," and that is just anti everything of a competitive marketplace and fair representation within the transaction, right? I mean,
right.
you go into court, you're not going to walk into court and represent yourself when the other side's got some highfalutin attorney out there. You're going to get chewed apart, I mean, you're
Oh
not
yeah.
in there without your own representation. You shouldn't go into
Well,
a real estate transaction without representation.
think about the first time home buyer. They're struggling to come up with their down payment. They're struggling to come up with closing costs. And at that point in time, they're at the mercy of whatever home they're wanting to purchase, right?
Mhm.
And so realistically, it's like the HOAs, right? So HOA, I'm going to go off on a little side tangent. HOAs, everyone says, and I was a firm believer at this one point in time too, but HOAs, they say, well, you agreed to live under these circumstances in this community. And if
Mhm.
and if you didn't want to do that, then you buy a home without an HOA. Well,
Right.
here in Arizona, the towns and municipalities, every single subdivision that goes in, vast majority of those are required to establish an HOA because that takes the burden off the local municipality from them driving around checking people's yards, right? And so it's kind of it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's a catch 22,
It is a catch 22.
right? Because the eight,
HOAs are a whole nother, that's a whole nother episode.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But so it's like, hey, if you don't want to live in HOA, don't buy in one. Wait, find me a community that's built in 90 or later, 90 or sooner, that doesn't have an HOA. So you're restricting my access to finding a subdivision because
Yeah.
municipalities are requiring it. And so, that's a lawsuit I'm waiting to have happen. But here again, goes back to that first time home buyer, right? Well, you could have went and found an agent to represent you. You didn't have to use one of our agents. Yeah. Well, this was the house I was wanting to buy.
Right.
This was in the community I could afford. This is where my in-laws are, to the school district I want to be in. And so I'm kind of forced along those lines. I have, from what you're representing on the website is I have to use one of your agents to buy this particular home. And I don't see
Yeah.
where that's going to end well. This lawsuit, you and I have said this 100 times. This lawsuit did nothing to protect the consumer. Nothing. It only opened them up to more issues. And you've made the statement it's just a wild, wild west
Yeah.
state. Yeah.
It's all bets are off right now. We're seeing crazy stuff happen in real estate right now. And the one nice thing I will say, I guess the one positive side about it is I have a first time buyer right now that I'm working with. And the positive side of this on it is the questions that they're asking me. They're not different than where they were before, but there's maybe a different curiosity behind them than there was before, possibly. Um, but man, oh man, I could see that if they were in a different ecosystem, how they could really get taken advantage of. And that's the part that scares me, I think, because you and I both talked about this and Exit Realty as a whole, but us as individual franchise owners, because every Exit Realty out there is owned by an independently owned franchise, which we are franchise owners. I adhere and our company adheres and to maximum exposure for our clients. So I can tell a seller easily, wholeheartedly that when I list your property, it's going all over the place, man. It's
Right.
going everywhere because that is the best way to sell any product. I don't care if you're selling a lawnmower or a car or whatever it is. I want it to as many people as possible because that's how I'm going to get the best price possible. And I'm also going to get a realistic feedback from the marketplace is to be everywhere. So I
Right.
know that that's what we endorse as brokers, and and I do think that the whole wild wild west side of it, and then corralling. See, I got some puns going there, and then corralling my listings, is going to lead to some crazy horse races. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's going to be interesting, man. It's just going to I agree with you 100% that we're going to see some really interesting lawsuits occur, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to track that. So I've got to kind of figure that out. I want to see if the number of buyer generated lawsuits post sale increases. I
Right.
because I think it will.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially if, whenever they determine how they're going to proceed and if they are going to break away from the different MLSs. And, here's the thing is I'm a free market guy. You're a free market guy. And realistically, I think every business owner has the right to run their business the way they see fit. Right.
100%. Yeah.
But in doing so, we still have to sleep at night. We still have to know that we did
Yes.
the best job that we could for our clients, because realistically, we're not transactional based, our mindset.
Yeah.
We're relational based, right? And so
Yeah.
whenever I tell my folks, I want to do such a good job for you that anytime you hear anybody talk about buying or selling real estate or investing in real estate or turning their property into a rental, I want you to think of me and refer that individual to me. Make that introduction, right?
Yeah.
So in doing
You
so,
want to earn that. You have to
yeah,
earn that, right? That's
yeah,
something we want to earn. You want to have that.
yeah. And in doing so, you and I both can lay our heads down on the pillow at night and say, we did the very best job that we could have done for our clients, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to, I did a great job for me and my family. Now, I'm in the business to provide for my family, don't get me wrong. But realistically, I'm not going to do that at the sacrifice of something else.
Oh no. I mean, and our you're in a much larger area where you could probably get away with a little bit of that. And that's not how you operate. And
Right.
then like I look at us, we're in a really small town. Everybody knows everybody here. If I operate that way, I'm not in business. And I've been in business, I've been doing you've been doing it a long time. I've been in real estate since 2011. So I wouldn't
Right.
be sitting here today still talking about real estate if I operated that way. And we understand that not only is that a dangerous way to operate. It's an unethical way to
Yeah.
operate, and it's just the wrong thing to do at the end of the day. But we're helping people with massive investments, buying and selling, and we have a responsibility to treat that accordingly. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, and
Exactly.
it's an interesting time. It's an interesting
It
time,
is.
and when we're seeing some crazy stuff. So I'm finding out, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So
But the funny thing is, you
we're
could
gonna have to
see.
hit on that HOA hot button. Though. That was kind of fun. You get all saucy on that one. That's gonna be
Oh, I do.
fun.
Well, I'm dealing with a couple HOA issues, personally, as well as on some rental properties that I manage. And they just got, my mama would say, you got too big for your britches. HOAs have,
Okay, okay, I like it. I
you know,
like it.
so, and some of it I understand. Others, they're totally out of whack. And it's, how much time and energy do you really want to pursue? To fight them, or do you just want to come into
Yeah,
compliance? And most times, it's
yeah.
the best thing to do is just come in compliance, move on down the road. And but yeah, there's an opening I foresee coming where HOAs are going to be challenged. Already here in Arizona, the Department of Real Estate is taking over governance of the HOAs because they had gotten so out of hand.
Oh
Well,
wow.
there's still some reining in that needs to happen as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, yeah.
But time will tell. But yeah, that's definitely an interesting conversation. We could have it on another
Oh
episode.
yeah, that is. Well, speaking of time, we want to be respectful of our
We
of
do.
the folks that are listening. So, what's your parting words of advice based upon kind of what we talked about today with these listings? Any golden nuggets? Like if you're a selling agent or you're a seller, what would you put out there? What would you say?
Well, to sell real estate, location, 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 number one, right? Number two, exposure, exposure, exposure,
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
Your house isn't going to sell if you hide it behind a rock,
Yeah,
you know.
right. It's
So
what we tell people when they first start in the business. You're not going to be successful in this business if you're the best kept secret.
yeah, being a secret agent is what we say. Yeah,
Yeah.
being a
There
secret.
you go. Exactly. Secret agent man.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
100%. No, I love it. I love it. You're absolutely right. Yep. The best way to sell your house is to have maximum exposure. And it's interesting. I
yeah,
think when somebody's interviewing their agents, make sure that person plans on getting your house the best exposure in order to get the most dollars for you back when you go to sell your house because it's a big investment. So
right, right. So,
that,
well, we'd like to thank everyone for taking some time out of your day and to listen to us. And we really hope you guys have a great 7-Eleven day.
heck
Drop in the
yeah.
comments which slushy you got.
I
So,
love it.
yeah, if you found this interesting, also please if you found it interesting, give us a like. If you have any comments, keep them to yourself. No, if you have any comments, go ahead and email Steve or myself, or even put comments in the box below.
Yep.
We'd love to hear from you, as well as giving us ideas on what topics that you would love to have us cover. So we'll
Right.
go ahead and sign on. Any other last words from you, Steve?
Nope.
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 Right.
Just give us a listen and give us some ideas. I mean, we've got lots of ideas, but
We
maybe
do.
things that you want to hear versus maybe what we feel like you want to hear.
Yeah, I think you'll probably notice that Steve or I don't have a lack of time to talk or conversation ability.
We got a lot to cover.
We do. All right. Hey, thanks for showing up, everyone. Take care.